Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Agri4Women panel discussion. Of course, this marks the end of a long week where we'll be sharing new learnings, discussions, networking, and of course, winning. Agri4Women Week is brought to you by the Farming for Resilient and ECAP project supported by the GIZ Namibia. My name is Maria Emmanuel. I'm a technical advisor at the Agriculture Trade Forum, and I'll be your moderator this morning. We are streaming live on Agri4Women YouTube channel, and we also have a live audience in studio this morning. Our first topic of discussion, women's participation in the agri-food sector, a prerequisite for sustainable development. I'm joined by a beautiful panel of women to help me or us unpack this topic this morning. On my immediate left, I would like to introduce my panel, is Ms. Esther Lusepani, the Executive Director in the Ministry of Gender Equality, Poverty Eradication, and Social Welfare. Welcome, Ms. Esther.
Thank you, Maria.
It's followed by Dr. Lydia Horn. She is a researcher coordinator at the University of Namibia. Welcome, Dr. Lydia.
Thank you, Maria.
Ms. Salma Nashea, welcome. She's an organic urban agriculturalist. Good to have you this morning. And then, of course, Ms. Helvi Shindume. She is the founder of Women in Agriculture organization. Welcome.
Thank you, Maria.
And of course, welcome to our live audience and everybody who's streaming this morning. I would like to dive right in it. I think when we talk about anything that has to do with business, production generally, I think the key thing is always market research. And of course, academia being very, very important key stakeholder, even generally in the agriculture sector. So I want to start with you, Dr. Lydia Horn. Perhaps you can just give us your introduction, what you're focusing on, if you can touch on some of the work that you have worked on, and how do you see the agriculture sector, and how do you link women in it?
Okay.
I think we are observing COVID protocol, and I think we are happy to please take off your mask, maybe just to breathe and speak better.
Okay.
For that, thank you.
Thank you, Maria, for the introduction, and good morning to everyone. The introduction was said. Yes, I am Lydia Horn. I am based at the University of Namibia. As a research coordinator, I'm coordinating one of the research division, which is under the Office of a PVC Reed. And these are the new initiative in which UNAM and the university is driving into, in order not only to focus on academic, but also to focus on research and innovation. So what we do there is basically also to convert what research has done to reality. My background, I am a plant breeder. I work with plants. So another word, a plant breeder is like a midwife, for example, in human, but what I do, I bring about new type of plants. So I've been working to develop new varieties of crop for Namibia, and to see how women can have better varieties, not only women, of course, but everyone, but my role mostly as a woman and grow up in the area, in the rural area, would like to see women have better varieties which are adapted to new climatic conditions such as drought, tolerance, and high yields, better output, better performance, maybe whatever you want. If you want short, tall, or this is my work basically. In addition to that, at our center, we also engage into mushroom production, and we promote the training into mushroom cultivation, because this is also seen as one aspect that women can also engage into and make money from it. We train them like for a week, and then after that we let them go with the seed and everything and this technology, then they can go and apply wherever they came from. I also been involved with the urban agriculture, where we train the people in the peri-urban, like with the city of Windhoek, of course, with the support from FAO and UNDP. We train the people who from informal settlement and involved with farm kukuna. And then after we train them, we give them the starter pack, and then they go and do the, you know. Yeah, it's a lot. I will not finish within this introduction. Thank you very much.
No, thank you so much. And yesterday we had a public lecture, and one of the audience actually was looking for where can they be trained as small-scale farmers, and I think we'll get to that later on.
Thank you.
Ms. Esther, thank you again for joining us, and you represent a very big, long ministry. Yeah. Gender equality is a component. Poverty eradication is a component, and social welfare is a component. How does gender disparity affect food and nutrition security at household level, national level, particularly really looking at women as obviously a big role player in household food security?
Yes, Maria, thank you for having me. I'll start by looking at, in terms of gender equality, why is it important, especially for women? There's a lot of barriers naturally which happen for women. This is why, as a country, in 2010 we adopted the National Gender Policy, which is aimed at empowering women to be productive in all sectors of life. And especially when we come to economic empowerment, you'll find that supporting women's economic empowerment, especially movement of women from the micro to the bigger issues, is actually a basic human right. Because if we confine women to small projects, then they cannot be fully empowered. The other issue is that if in a house only one person is empowered, it's not really economically efficient. But if two people are highly empowered, it's good for the family, it's good for the country, and it's good for Africa. So these are the issues which we really think that it's important to empower women. The agriculture sector is one of the sectors where we hope and we think there's opportunity for empowerment of women. If you look at the sector, it contributes highly to the GDP of the country. It also contributes to employment. But despite that, we've realized that there are some barriers. There are so many barriers which impede women to participate fully. One of them, you know, in economics, I'm not an economics student, but I'm sure some people in the audience are. They used to teach us about the three factors of production. Yeah. I remember two, which is land, yeah. Capital, and labor. Eh? Yeah. Yeah, it's three. I got them. Yeah. Yeah. So if we come to land, I was just talking to Lydia here. She's a plant breeder. Yeah. She needs land to breed the plants, to give us seeds. Does she have access to land? No. Our country, fortunately, has put a lot of laws which helps access to land. The Communal Land Reform Act, the Commercial Agriculture Land Act, administered under the Ministry of Agriculture, to help to equalize, but we still have a long way. The statistics still say we merely have about between 20 and 30% of women accessing land. Yeah. And this is an issue, yeah, that we are still not accessing the land we need. So with that we come to capital. It's always a joke I make to myself that even that I have gone to this level, I'm still shy to go to Agribank or DBN to get a huge amount of money to run my business. But you need capital. If I were to run a big mushroom project, probably I need 20 million. But the confidence and the skills which come to run that money and to make a good business of it.
Yeah.
So you see that we need to facilitate the empowerment of women in technical skills, in running businesses, so that the confidence grows for you to go and get that 20 million. And by nature, women, we are good financial managers. I can brag about that. We'll hear about when the girls talk.
Yeah.
Yes, we are good financially, but we just need that confidence.
Yes.
That I'll get that 20 million, I'll employ people, I'll produce, I'll export, I'll connect to the market, and my life will be better.
Definitely.
So these are the issues which, as the women break barriers into agriculture, we need to look at the issue of access to land, access to capital, the skills which goes with running the business, and also running away from the small business and entering the bigger sphere.
Definitely.
I'll stop there.
Yes, no, we'll come back. Definitely important key things there, especially labor. The Statistics Agency also mentions that most of the labor is unpaid labor, where they find that women are saying, you know, they are contributing, but perhaps, and we'll get there. So, Ms. Salma, you are participating in agriculture. You know, you are actually the spotlight of such events, and you're having experience, and you are facing all these challenges every day. I think we're chatting offline, and you say yesterday you were supplying Pick and Pay, so you were harvesting so you can try to supply your produce. With all the challenges that are being mentioned, you know, these barriers that are there, how do you face them as an urban agriculturalist in organic? And perhaps what are you doing? What is organic? Why that? And just maybe share your experience as a woman in agriculture and how you're maneuvering in the environment.
Thank you so much, Maria. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, you know, the agribusiness landscape is quite vast and broad, and it is, you know, when it comes to business management, business development, I think it's not quite similar to other conventional businesses because it is also faced by the climatic shocks that are currently, you know, being discussed at the COP26 meeting, for example. Which is a global issue for all countries and societies. But in my personal experience, it was not easy, as Ms. Esther and Ms. Lydia highlighted, in terms of accessing the resources. And also because, you know, we are not always jacks of all trades. You know, I have my strengths. So building a team that can carry an agricultural project through is also something that's a challenge because sometimes you might have a good idea, you might see the market need, but in terms of implementation, that's another thing. And it's also very time consuming. I'm currently an MBA student focusing in sustainable agriculture and sustainability or sustainable development with an Indian university. Specifically because looking at global statistics, India has been doing very well in agriculture. They've been producing surplus. And also when it comes to technology, they've been doing quite well. So that was one of the reasons I decided to embark on this MBA to develop my own personal capacity so that I can develop the business skill side of agriculture. And I've also been involved with supporting the entrepreneurial ecosystem, which has very little support on agribusiness specifically. So this is also another area that I want to support the ecosystem or the agricultural sector to actually build those business skills specifically for agriculture or for agribusiness development. For me, I founded a company called Mehafo Sustainable Solutions, and the focus of Mehafo, because like I said, I'm not the jack of all trades, it really is founded on collaborative principles where we try to harness the different skills and capabilities around us to create what we want to create with, you know, what we have. I didn't have the money, I didn't have the capital. I didn't have a lot of things, and it can be quite discouraging. Last year, especially with COVID restrictions, with agriculture, you have to move. We couldn't really move, and you know, markets were constrained. It was a big challenge, but it was through that collaborative model of Mehafo that I was able to link to Future Females, which is a business development program. I was able to connect with UNAM's agricultural center as well, and they are currently promoting smart agriculture, which is a new venture for us. But then it's through those collaborative ventures that we were also able to access the land. We are currently focusing on urban, or specifically organic urban agriculture. Well, urban because I am in an urban setting, in an urban town. I can't go to the rural area. And also urban because a lot of the, I would say from my personal opinion, a lot of the government efforts are also targeting rural agricultural development, but we've seen an increase in urbanization over the years, and we're also seeing an increase in urban poverty. So what about these people? Where do they go? And with the impacts of climate change in the rural areas, even if we're to say people should go back to their areas, how do they survive? So why not empower, you know, the people in the urban areas? So this is why we're focusing on the urban farming and organic specifically, because we've also seen, I don't have the statistics, but we've also seen an increase in human health and human development challenges. A lot more people are becoming sick. A lot more people don't know what they're eating, where it's coming from. And again, COVID-19 restrictions. We've seen the borders closed. We've seen how retail shops or our markets have been limited in terms of accessing what we, you know, consume on a daily basis. So these are opportunities that we saw to, you know, focus on specifically urban farming and urban agriculture. And by organic farming, I mean that we try our best to use natural materials in our production system. So we use compost from animal and green or brown waste to make our own compost in order to improve our soil fertility. And we also try to use nature-based techniques like, you know, crop rotation, as well as combining plants so that we minimize the impact of pest attacks and whatnot, and also the use of fertilizers and insecticides and so forth. So yeah, so that's what we do.
Wow. You know, they say leaders are those with the ability to connect the dots. And I think you are connecting them very well. So thank you about that. And by the way, just a fun fact that the split in population between urban and rural in Namibia is 50-50. So you are actually spot on that. Either way, the population is actually growing, and very, very important to play in that sector. Ms. Helvi, welcome. And of course, you are probably one of the youngest people that I'm seeing on the scene of agriculture, a fresh graduate. Always good to see. And my question to you maybe for now is, what inspired you to actually start Women in Agriculture organization? What did you see? Why that? If you can just share that with us.
Good morning, Maria, and good morning to our viewers. What inspired me to start the organization? It's a very long story. But I'll start from when I went to university. That's when I really got into the agricultural sector, and through my engagements and discussions and meeting different women in the sector, it really helped me to pick up the different challenges that they are all facing and the different opportunities that are there. So when I would go to events, right, I would see and hear those women speak about so many different aspects as to being a woman in agriculture, and I would always wonder to myself, if this is such a big issue in Namibia, you know, there is a gap of women in agriculture and men in agriculture. So I asked myself, how can I take up that space? You know, now that I have identified the gap, how can I take up that gap? How can I fill it up? And that is how the whole organization got motivated. So it was really just in the beginning, the whole organization was really just established to strengthen the recognition of women's contribution in the agricultural sector. You know, so the imperativeness of women actively engaging in agricultural activities really plays a vital role in the food systems, right? So their recognition or recognizing their efforts in agriculture will really motivate women to do more in each of their sectors, and in the process also inspire others to do the same. Yeah, so
And maybe while you have the mic, what do you think is the role of young women generally in Namibia when it comes to the agriculture sector? What would you want to see? Where do you see the opportunities? And perhaps do you have some initiatives that you are running under your organization?
yes, what I want to see from young women in agriculture is really coming in from an innovative side of agriculture. I've spoken to so many young women farmers. Some are interested in agriculture, some are not interested in agriculture. So what I realized, or the gap that I've seen within us young farmers, is that we don't want to do the olden agriculture. We do not want to do the agriculture that our parents have been doing. What they want to do is, you know, something that is simpler, something that is very innovative, and something that is attracting them, and obviously something that is bringing them money. Because with these young people, they want money immediately and the easiest way possible. So the future I see for young women farmers is really to come in from an innovative side. Instead of having going to grow your vegetables or going to take care of your animals, you would rather, you know, create something or digitize agriculture. So that is really the future I look upon to, and that is what I keep on when I engage with young farmers. That is what I keep advocating for, that you don't have to be in the sun, seated, plowing. Right? You can sit under your office and you're using your social media, your Facebook, your Instagram, and put agriculture out there.
Wow, thank you. Ms. Lydia, my question is, how can Namibia and women specifically drive a sustainable production system, considering, of course, the climate change issues we are experiencing? COP26 is ongoing there. Namibia is positioning ourselves as a leader in that area. From a research point of view and just from a production system point of view, how can women really drive that sustainably?
Okay, thank you for this question, Daniel. The women are the driver, like everybody have been speaking about. Even though they are not the one plowing, majority who are driving agriculture is women. And it's already said like 46% of the people who are involved in agriculture are women. And some of them already start at the age when you are already like, I remember when I started doing all this activity, I was like introduced when I was already 8 years old. And now when you look, most of the activity which are happening in the field, like in the rural area, it's from the age of 15, mostly they are already employed. Like this, she said, Esther said, the young people want to get involved. But for you to get women involved, you need to bring incentives. You need to attract them to that. And these are the people that we need, the young people with young initiative and young mind to say, okay, how can we now bring these women to this sector? Because now it will not be now my mother who will be now going again to start to innovate agriculture. From my age on, we are the one to start, but the young people need to be involved. And from the research perspective, agriculture is moving now in a different direction. We talk of land. Esther talk of land. I don't have land, despite the
knowledge.
Yeah, the knowledge and expertise that I carried. You know, I have a vast experience for over 20 years now in this field, but I'm not able maybe to go and plow myself, but where I'm, teaching or just sharing or writing, it's contributing. So we need to make this information that we put in a very simpler way. We need to teach this group of women, like they have organizations and what, NGOs who are coming in, like GIZ, your organization. Can we create these women groups and then we say, okay, this is the technology that we have. We already plan, then the women start already going ahead with this technology. Because I see writing and again, with all these procedures and what, it's just a whole waste of time.
Yeah.
Most of the time, we don't come up with a straightforward to say, this is how to bake a bread, go and bake. It will, if somebody have to go again and you know, and this is not how it should be done.
Yeah.
People are innovating. People are using just a space like this now. It's already enough to produce and, you know, and feed window.
Yeah.
There's vertical agriculture which is happening. You can grow your, like, lettuce. Why would you go and waste space, grow lettuce outside there when lettuce does not need soil to grow? All what you need is water. Lettuce doesn't need all this heavy, it doesn't have protein. All what it needs is just these micronutrients. And you can input it in the hydroponic way, it just grow. You can grow it in the cup, you can grow it from your kitchen top. Yeah? So we need to bring this innovation. First, we start off, put them in groups. And one thing that I've also realized also in our country, or mostly in the society, after all these years trying to do research and I also try to do business and then it failed, you know. Most of the time, we don't want to support each other. If I see Esther start something now like she's doing, instead of going to support her, I'm also going to start mine. I see what is she doing now? And then I create mine on the side.
Yeah.
If I see she's doing organic, instead of saying, let's go and buy from her, we take to the market, I will also try and create mine on the side. Then we are many, now who's buying?
Yeah.
This is what we need. We need to organize ourselves and implement what research have brought. And, you know, if you have to pay $10 to Esther or to, you know, just pay. Where you pay, that money she will use to grow and all, you know. And this is also how to grow industry. And we are talking that women need incentives. So if I'm getting money in, so I will pay somebody else, and then we grow the network. And also income, you know, coming in. I'm not from the business perspective, but I mean, business or this is the knowledge, my background is not from economy or what, but I see it in that line.
Definitely.
We need to support each other.
Yes.
And in order to grow. Otherwise, the women have no problem implementing this project because they are very hardworking.
Yeah.
They are the one doing the work. Men are, like if you check in the villages, like now it's this summer, huh?
Yeah.
People are now relaxed, sitting under the shade. Okay, you see them under maybe the shade, building this silo to put mahangu, where to keep the mahangu. But who have been doing all this mahangu in the field is the woman. She's the one who planted, she's the one who cultivated, she's the one who harvested, she's the one who winnows. The man is just sitting there and then he sleep. He wait the next, you know, to go and in the house, eat, and then go to sleep. You know, the cycle continue.
Yeah.
So if we empower women, of course the society will be empowered. Of course we need our men, but that is how we need to start.
They say behind every successful farming woman there's a man.
Yes, yes.
All right. No, thank you for that, Dr. Lydia. Ms. Esther, I know that agriculture cooperative models, especially women-based, are very big drivers of agriculture productivity in East Africa, in West Africa, perhaps maybe in our neighboring Zambia, Zimbabwe. But in Namibia, when you are interfacing with, you know, from a government point of view, with the different initiatives, and particularly women at that level, how do you see the way women actually approach government? I know, I mean, I work with you in government for many years, and just that approach, it's almost like government doesn't really try to help individual people, but you have to come as an association, you have to come as a, you know, organized, you know. What would you share from experience, and what would you like to see as an executive director in that position, interfacing with the sector, and perhaps where is the role of the private sector as well? We should never forget that one as well.
Yes, Maria, before I get into women's organization, of course, I'm still talking about it. I'm very glad to see young women like Healthy getting into organized agriculture.
Yeah.
And I think agriculture actually needs organization.
Definitely.
And I love her outlook, because I have the same outlook. Whenever I think about, you know, when my father was a farmer, And when we were young, we had to go into that crop field, lean down, and weed.
And weed.
By 10 o'clock, we feel your brake is broken.
Yeah.
And when they are waking you up at 5, even now I'm still an early riser because of this peasant farming.
Yeah.
When they wake you up at 5, you are crawling out of that, that bed. When you think about continuing that way of life, you say, no, this is tough. Even now I'm saying, I'm only going to farm if I can afford a tractor, a thresher.
Labor.
And even my labor must be sitting in a tractor.
Yeah.
And this is what is making young people shun agriculture. It's painful to do it the traditional way. It's really painful. So when I see now the Helvies having that outlook, it gives me hope that we'll see the young people back
Definitely.
in agriculture with their tractors, with their iPads.
Yes.
Even your irrigation is calculated on the pad. You switch it on, the pivot moves. You see? So these are the kind of things which, because we've really been wondering why the youth are running away from agriculture. Even most of the farmers who are selling land, their children are not prepared to come back.
Yeah.
They just said, sell that farm. Me and that issue, we cannot come together. Yeah, so that's what I want to, just to, as an off-site comment. But coming down to organized agriculture, there's actually a lot of power in unity. And I think we are still not, as a country, it's not
vibrant.
It's not vibrant, it's not holding together. But we need it. I'm not sure why cooperation, I hope the colleagues will be able to share, especially from the experience part of view. She's managed to join the dots, but we need it to really get the associations. Because, for example, for you to have buying power for seeds, you need to have an association where you have volumes so that you can share transport costs to move the seeds, all these inputs. Even when I'm talking about a thresher, if you are organized association, after you have sold, you can put together money and buy the thresher so that when you harvest, you can just come and thresh. So that part is so important. Even marketing, when you share marketing costs, you don't lose so much to the buyer, because right now you find that in our rural areas, people have to come, they move from one house to another, and that person who's buying has to bring the transport. Definitely. So a lot of your money is lost to that transport because you yourself could not get together to organize yourself and sell. Yeah, this is why we have all these agriculture unions. It's actually to organize that.
Definitely.
We have the Emerging Farmers Organization.
Yes.
Dr. Ngifidaka is there. Yes. We have the Namibia Farmers Union. Yes. We have the Agriculture Union. Yeah. Even the Agras, yes. You know, that cooperative, it was formed by farmers. Yeah. So we need to actually start having that. But having worked at the community level myself, I remember trying to organize farmers in Kunene on marketing days. We managed to organize one successful one, where after selling, they made 1 million, but then the farmers' organization was not prepared for having that kind of money. Yeah. So somehow I think we still need a bit of capacity building, yes, for people to manage these associations. Definitely. Properly. And we have good examples of a community working together in our conservancy movements. We have where they have a manager, they have a chairperson, they have a management committee. So these are good examples of community organizations which have become powerful. Yeah. So nothing actually fails us to move it to the other side. Yeah, Ministry of Agriculture is a cooperative division. They've been working towards it, but we need those organizations to take the front line. Even marketing. If you are the only one marketing, you can't go and negotiate a big market. Definitely. On your 3 hectares. Yeah. But if you take the 3 hectare, 3 hectare, 3 hectare, now you have a bigger organization, which now has strength to negotiate and get a good market. Yeah, so these are important. And I also wanted to take leaf from what we talked about value in agriculture. As women, we will not make money in agriculture if we still, again, produce traditional crops.
Yeah.
And this is what I've seen, that she's gone another way. She's producing lettuce. She's doing all these other organic pounds.
Organic, yeah.
Because I compared that if you put the blueberries, the ones which started now in Kavango,
Yes.
on your hand like this,
Yeah.
which could be 200 grams.
Yeah.
That's like 50 Namibian dollars.
Yes.
Now you put mahango. Mahango maybe is even stronger. You put maize here. A kilogram of it is $1.
Yeah.
I don't know what's the price this year.
Yes.
The audience can help me in that. But I remember at some point it was $1.40.
Yeah.
And again, no export market. It cannot give you US dollars.
Yep.
So we want to encourage women to be also creative and innovative, that we bring high value crops,
Yeah.
that in the end you become like the grape farmers at
Mashare.
yeah. Then once they produce at Osenke, most of it goes on the export market. You get US dollars.
Yes.
The rest we eat here at home at good value price. So it's important to actually strengthen. But as a Ministry of Gender,
Yeah. And particularly, I wanted you to focus on the poverty eradication angle.
yes,
It comes up a lot to say, what is the ministry doing so they can interface with the sector to contribute to poverty eradication in agriculture?
Yes.
The initiatives where women can organize themselves to supply, what, maybe that more specifically
Yes,
for,
yes.
for the audience.
As a Minister of Gender, we have about 3 flagship programs. But the only thing we have focused on, unfortunately, is the micro.
Okay.
We actually want to see how we can go up. One of them, and it's not specifically to agriculture, but because most of the enterprises which are happening in the community out there
Yeah.
are actually more inclined to agriculture. We have the poultry, the gardening, the orchards. So we do the IGA, the income generating activities, where if we find you've started a project. For example, you were starting with poultry. We focusing on women who started something already.
Yeah.
And then we give them additional equipment to grow them. And then from there, it comes to our next program, which actually looks at training. Yeah, the training, we have a partnership with Agri4Women. We call it Accelerated Women-Owned Micro-Enterprises, AWOME.
Yeah.
So that program with the Agri4Women is actually contains about 6 countries of SADC, where we share experiences. What it helps a lot is that it looks at improve your business training, so that you can take your business from it was to somewhere else. We also have a generate your business idea, and we also grow your business. And we have had very good testimonial from there.
Great.
Especially because the women learn how to manage their money, how to think of other new businesses, how to actually run a proper business.
Yeah.
That some of the ladies will tell you that I never knew I could buy a car from this small micro enterprise. But I'm seeing that I can actually grow as a person and be empowered. Yeah. So these are some of the good experiences. The other one we are looking at is the women in business associations. So far, we have, as a ministry, we have 61 women in business associations in constituency. That's 61 out of the 121 constituencies. So there's still work to be done on that.
Yeah, half.
Yes.
Come.
And this is helping actually to organize women. But also it's not only agriculture. There will be tailors there. There will be, all walks of life of businesses, so that they have that voice at the constituency level.
Great.
And people can go there, and also when we train, we go there, we give them the training there. So these are the few activities. But of recently, the ministry has been seeing that to actually migrate from micro to bigger, we need financial inclusion for women.
Yes.
That confidence I talked about earlier, of them that once they know, they understand how to run business, how to generate business idea, they can now think bigger, no longer micro, and become a participants in the mainline economy of the country.
Definitely.
Yeah, so that actually we have to work with the banks.
Yes.
We've seen a good scheme in Egypt recently,
Okay.
where you basically link the bankers to the women
Yeah.
so that they understand each other. It means working with the banks and the women, bring them together so they can grow the economy.
Definitely. Because we're always scared to approach the banks.
Yes.
I don't know why, but
Yes.
yeah, I think that is good. I want us to maybe go to our live audience at this point for any questions, for any comments. We have a mic stand. If we could maybe have some hands, if you want to do intervention, please take a stand and go to the mic, and then we can take it from there. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
Yes, my name is Jennifer Gatsi, and I'm representing CREA, SADC, and Namibia Women's Health Network. I would want to thank the panel and the moderator as well, because this is very important.
Thank you.
Women are leaders when it comes to agriculture. I have a few questions. I will start with Dr. Horn. Thank you very much that you are looking at the seeds, because we are also having challenges with the seeds, especially coming from South Africa. They attract a lot of insects. So how can we have our own seeds adapted to the Namibian environment? So we are looking forward to that. Okay. When do you think your research is going to bring about, and how is the message going to be communicated to the women who will be doing the agriculture? That now, okay, we've got the seeds, and these are the kinds of seeds we've got, the different varieties which are adaptable to Namibia, and also training on some of these seeds, because what we also found was that, especially from the seeds from South Africa, we had some seeds which can grow very well in Namibia, but the women did not know how to prepare these seeds. And I'm talking on nutrition especially, because our women groups are women living with HIV, and have to look at the children on nutrition aspects. In some of these seeds which they were growing and very helpful to nutrition, they didn't know how to prepare them. So what kind of training is going to be provided as well on the different kinds of seeds? Miss Esther Lusepani, women accessing land, what are the barriers and how can they be addressed? You also talked about promoting the produce. What kind of messaging can we do? Because you gave two different aspects of mahango and the blueberries. Because even though we've got the blueberries in the supermarkets, how many families can be able to access them because of the cost? Because we know the difficulties now because of COVID. You talked about mahango. I think we really need to promote mahango. When you look at the younger generation, most of them, they are not in favor of eating mahango. I think we need to look at how we bring in messaging into why we need to have mahango, the health aspects of it.
Yes.
And we also need to look at public-private partnerships. Why I'm saying that, we had one group where we managed to bring the women together as 4 women in a group, and we were looking at how can they also access these services at the commercial banks. They were not looking for a loan, they wanted to start something like stokvels. So we went to one of the banks, we approached them, we told them why we need to do this so that they can start to pull their resources together, bank together, so at the end of the year they can share these resources to go for Christmas holidays. And these women are from informal settlements. They don't have seat of window statements. That was a huge barrier. We could not even, they wanted to just open savings account as a group of 4. But that was a barrier, they could not open it because they didn't have seat of window statements. I think we need to look at that. We also need to look at, because what I've been hearing, so many things are happening, but are we coordinated to know who is doing what? So that we have this organization which can compile all this information and bring us together with the Minister of Gender, Minister of Agriculture, University of Namibia, so that we know who is doing what and what are they doing and how can we support them. Because I'm sure you're hearing from me for the first time, you didn't know that we were also doing organic gardens in the informal settlements in Katutura. So we need that coordination to be put together. And young women, Ms. Sylvia, I heard you. You said they are more into innovative technology and things like that. How do we bring them together with the older women who are more into practicals, into doing the actual work?
Exactly.
How do we bring them together?
Yeah.
We also experienced because how do we bring agriculture and also animals, small animals? I had a little experiment in my own backyard garden with rabbits. Rabbit is the next generation of meat eaters because it's very healthy. I had it at my small land here in Windhoek. I started with 2. I managed to harvest 3,000 and sold. But then I approached also Spar supermarkets, and they wanted me to supply. And that is an opportunity for women to combine small-scale farming in agriculture and small livestock. So how can we promote that? But there was also a barrier, seat of window, because the SPA wanted to give me the thing. I told them I cannot supply the whole of Namibia. Maybe I can supply one SPA supermarket in Windhoek where they sent me to the Grove Mall one, and they came and saw. And they wanted me now to have the certificate from Seat of Windhoek. Seat of Windhoek would not give that because it's urban area. So how can we also look at Seat of Windhoek and say, I think you need to open this.
Yeah.
And make sure that it becomes part and parcel of promoting women. They do their vegetables, they've got this small livestock, the chicken, rabbits, and things like that. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for those interventions. Yes, please. We have 2 more hands. Please go ahead. We are running out of time as well. Please keep it a bit more summarized and short.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Magresha Osiku. I'm a veterinarian at UNAM. So I'm just going to ask 2 questions. Maybe they can be addressed with regards to enrollment of attracting youth to agriculture. This question would then go to Dr. Horn as well as Salma, the entrepreneur. I like when you mentioned that we shouldn't work in silo, because that's what is currently happening in Namibia, where there's no integration. It's more of a competition than finding ways to support each other. So with the research that's currently going on at UNAM, what innovative or incubation programs are available where we can grow these heat-resistant or type of seeds that you're developing? And how can this information be disseminated to the ministry, where they can create a platform for these incubation centers to run and attract youth into not only agricultural programs, but also into farming? So we hear about these seeds, but are they available to the public? When they're available, how will we then also ensure that there's accessibility to the seed that can give women competitive advantage against the current producers, against the importing produce as well? So that could probably go to both Ms. Salma and Dr. Horn, just to talk about more on collaboration and how this can attract the youth. And then Ms. Halvey, I also appreciated that you have started this organization. It's very good. Can you perhaps just share light or give us more information on how one can digitize agriculture in a lucrative manner? I think if we look at accessibility to resources at the moment and the way technology is in Namibia, can this platform, current platforms available, support your vision of digitizing agriculture? So maybe if you can just share a bit more light on that, because I thought that was quite interesting. And then, yeah, I think my lady addressed the other questions with regards to the programs in place in the various ministries, obviously, that can help with assistance, and obviously just seeing and identifying programs where women can actually come through to produce high-value crops.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing for us to speak here, but then if that information is not available, we don't know what to focus on, what to produce. And there's a demand for high value, but that information barrier is not communicated. Are there value chain systems already in place, or is it something that has to be established? What is government doing with regards to that?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Nifendaka, please go ahead.
Yeah. Good morning. My name is Ntafa Nifendaka, if you wish, Dr. Nifendaka. And I am the president of the Namibian Emerging Commercial Farmers Union. Being the president of the Farmers Union, that's not very much of my profession and my background. I'm a gender expert. I'm a philosopher and a lawyer, to say the least. Why I want to intervene, and I want to thank you, colleague, for bringing up that issue. And my love to women and children is the recent priority for me, even if I'm in a retired age. I remember years back in Namibia, when Namibians and the Namibian women in particular started up or come up with to have a minister of gender. People started from a desk to a department to a full-fledged ministry. And I'm one of the forerunner of that very particular ministry. So I'm very happy that the executive director, she is here. And my point here, relevant to this very particular point, is that what innovation, what further initiative that is put up by the ministry regarding the boy child and the girl child, because you cannot talk women and you separate those two people or those two animals from them. As regards to commitment to agriculture, what exactly do I do? And another aspect is, again, the dropout children that we have. This group of people that are not at school, they are the people that are grouping to become gangster. Recently and yesterday, all mothers and fathers, we were crying off on the accident that has happened at UNAM campus. Nobody likes it. Some of us, we want even to put off our TV when we listen to such a thing. What type of kids that we are bringing up? Perhaps we have to look down and see what program that we are going to put up to address these issues. And thank you very much. I said I love women, children, and the adults. Then, in terms of coordination of program activity and activities, whatever corners you are coming from, whether it's the organization or the ministry or any other agencies, like what we are here being brought up by the GIZ, is that there is a program by Namibia. It's very, very, very new, still under or being supported by the GIZ, and that is the Farmers Business School. What do we have there? Is that we need to have these two people, men and women, into the business, in their small area, to see how they can get that skill to manage the farming as a business. And then
we're running out of
in
time,
the
Doctor.
research, we also need to have, I wanted also to find out from the executive director the type of empowerment tools that we think of as a ministry regarding to bring in women in the mainstream and in the modern agriculture.
Doctor,
so that's
Thank
very
you.
much important.
Thank you. We ran out of time.
Yeah, I speak very slow, but you cannot stop me as a philosopher by stopping.
Right.
So I think that is all, and we are very open. The farmers' business, please contact us, or you contact the CIZ.
Yes.
They know all the people that are involved in it, and then we work together to go into the mainstream. And then again, the ministry should look back the SADC optional protocol for women in agriculture, women in economics, and then also the women access to resources. I thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, I think we want to take answers for that. Ms. Esther, I want to put you on the spotlight, please, to go through summary. I think most of the questions were targeted to you, so that then maybe we just give an opportunity to do final remarks for everybody. We are running out of time. We have literally, I'll give you 3 minutes, please.
I'm sure I'm going to summarize everything in 3 minutes. Yes, I'm going to try. Just coming to Jennifer, it's good to see you. You are still in Korea. Yeah, coming to the barriers on access to land, the biggest one is cultural. Even if your fathers give land to their daughters, to their sons. As a daughter, everybody looks at you that you'll be married, you leave. So that's the cultural barrier is a big one. And also when you are married, your husband is most likely to negotiate all the land issues. And I keep lacking time and see.
Don't worry, just go ahead.
For example, I remember when I was at Lens, one gentleman walked into my office, and he was very aggrieved. He had moved to the place where the wife lives. That's the grandmother's house. But the man was insisting that that communal land must be registered in his name because he's the head of the household. But this is the grandmother to the wife's land, which he wants to register in his name. And he was very adamant that he went to court to access that right. Unfortunately, he failed. But he was now coming to my office to vet that you, Minister of Lands and your laws, why, as the head of the household, can the land not be registered in my name? I said, but the law allows for your wife to register. In a day or two, your wife, you will have your land right when your wife applies. Because now the rest of the family is objecting. They cannot allow you to take the land. So these are just a good example of those kind of barriers that we have. And also even just knowledge, and also just the land registration sometimes. I say that most of the institutions are patriarchal. Yeah. You go to the village headman, he's a man.
Yes.
You go to the senior councillors, they are men.
Yeah.
You go to the king or the chief, whatever, the head is a man. So we have these patriarchal institutions. Sometimes you don't have the confidence and to just go there and do that registration. You have to pull your brother that drive me.
You lead.
If your brother. So just to touch on that one. Also the issue of, my apologies, Jennifer, I spoke more not of house food, food security. I was talking more about economic integration. That's why I was giving those examples. Of course, mahangu is one of the most nutritious food in the country. Our founding father used to promote it a lot. We still promote it as the most nutritious food. Actually, by now, most of us, if we eat this top score thing, I should not be mentioning brands because but if you eat this white processed, it's not good for nutrition. But mahangu is really, really highly nutritious. But then I'm just saying that let's not focus on traditional agriculture. If we want to make US dollars, we want to do whatever, we want to look at crops which actually have a higher market value and other markets, not the traditional markets which we know here. So my apologies if it sounded like I'm dishing very important crops there. Yes, the barriers at the bank, these are the things we really want to get into. As I said, that we really need to look at financial inclusion. And it's good to know that you are having that experience already, and the experience of City of Windhoek bylaws. I know, and it's always our neighbors. If your chickens are crawling and making noise, they will call. I think you had rabbits, they are much quieter. Yeah. Other people have tried chickens around Windhoek, and very soon city police, and you have to move. But we also have opportunities for these outskirts of townlands. And I think this is what we should encourage the City of Windhoek to encourage people. There are a lot of innovative farmers in the city. If they are given a chance to farm at root orb, there's a lot of peri-urban areas. Yeah. City of Windhoek has farms which are sitting fallow. Yep. So if people are, if they see you that you have rabbits, then that's justification enough to give you a piece of 1 hectare or 500 square meters to start your things there. Definitely. Because we still need to have that production. But our neighbors complain a lot. Your chicken crow, you are reported every day. Maybe you can touch on the children aspect, programs and. Yes, on the children, we have a lot of, in Namibia we're focused a lot on the girl child. Of course, it's because it comes a lot from the Beijing time and also just the traditional, as I said, naturally, the access to education, a lot of the girl child rights were not accessed naturally. So we focused on the girl child a lot. But of recently, we've seen the boy child falling behind, especially in educational attainment, and also even tertiary institution attainment. We are seeing that going back. So the ministry is actually at the drawing board right now, looking at the national gender policy. So we have to come up with strategies to see how we address the boy child. And the boy child we have seen is troubled. We see a lot of them on the street. Actually, let me take this opportunity to talk to our people that we have high child neglect in Namibia. So basically, the parents are responsible for a lot of the problems we are seeing in the children. Children are left to their own demise, just to do whatever they want. Yeah. So that also, as parents, we have to really think about where do you leave your child? How is your child taken care of? We find children on the street, parents drinking. It's not good for our children. Yeah. It starts at home before it goes to government. I think I just want to give Ms. Horn 30 seconds to respond, especially on the excess of seed, where, how, please, briefly.
Okay, thank you very much. The seeds that we talked about were actually from my own, that I do privately. But the university itself is busy engaging now, busy with research, looking at seed of important crops such as potatoes. I think you have seen in the media, and some other, but they are still at that initial stage of research. Right. So this is not yet out there. But whoever needs more information, they can always come to the university and then find more out. And also on the business aspect, how to put out opportunity out there. UNAM also have this Inceptus Center where you can come, maybe you have your business idea that you want to implement and you don't know how to do it. You come there with your proposal and everything. There are experts there who are designed for this, and they will help you to get out your business idea and also how to collaborate. You partner with UNAM. So there are also things already set in place how to deal with this. So we have different centers which are dealing with each aspect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Halvey, that last part of digital, just briefly, how do you see that involving?
Okay. I won't take time, but I want to answer also first on the question of how do we get the young women and connect them to the older women. So with the organization, we rely on different interventions to connect these women farmers. So it's number one, it's policy advocacy. Number two is inclusivity. Number three is community outreach and national coverage. So with that, within the organization, we have two groups of women. We have the older women and we have the younger women. The older women are the women that have been farming, they have the experience and they've been in the farming industry for quite a long time. The younger women are the ones that are graduates from school. So they have the theory and the educational aspect. So when we go out, when we do different activities, we usually have these young, educated young women to then explain or train these older women on modern ways on how to do different.
Definitely.
Yes, and then we get from the experience side of the older women, we get them show these young women farmers that this is how things are done on a technical level. So I just wanted to answer that now. Briefly on what the organization is doing with regards to digitizing, we have recently, just a few weeks back, completed an agribusiness bootcamp with the support of Startup Namibia. So with the bootcamp, we are focused on agribusinesses, agri-tech, and urban farming. So with that, we covered a range of topics within these participants, from digitizing innovative or new modern ways in agriculture. So that is where we have started for now with the training. And of course, future plans is really to become, to go deeper into digitalizing agriculture.
Definitely.
Maybe for my closing remarks, I really like to say that I think, or I believe that it is possible for women to be at the center of commercial agriculture, because we have already shown our interest in tertiary level and through subsistence farming over the years.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Ladies and gentlemen, we are out of time. Thank you for joining us for this session. There's so much to unpack, as you could tell that there's so much to talk about, but we will end this session here. Please do join us to continue this conversation at 11:30 right here on Agri4Women YouTube channel. So that we can continue this conversation. We'll be looking at opportunities and challenges for women in the agri-food trade and policy sector. I would like to thank very much my beautiful panel for being with me this morning and unpacking, and my lovely audience. See you at 11:30. Welcome back to our second and last session of the Agri4Women panel discussion. Earlier this morning, we had a very insightful discussion where we looked at the role of women in agriculture in terms of the sustainable way of producing and participating and contributing, of course, largely to the agriculture GDP. We are live streaming on the Agri4Women YouTube channel. We do have a live audience in studio. I want to welcome everybody this session. And of course, I am joined by a panel of beautiful women who are participating in agriculture at the policy level, at the entrepreneurship level, and of course at the academia level. And I want to welcome my panel this afternoon, or this morning rather, where we'll be looking at challenges and opportunities for women in agriculture in light of trade and policy. Please let me welcome Ms. Sarah Nkondo. You are an agripreneur from Our Foods. A pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Ms. Elise Mawano from the Ministry of Industrialization and Trade. Good to have you this morning. And of course, Dr. Tina Moyo, Co-Director at the Agriculture Trade Policy Institute at NAST. Welcome.
Thank you.
Earlier on when we started, we really looked at I started with the academia perspective, always very important to give us that information gap. But perhaps let me come and open up with an agripreneur's perspective. Of course, in the morning session, we looked at different topics and so much to say and so much to do, but particularly barriers women are facing, the challenges, access to finance, a whole lot to unpack. Maybe from your experience as an agripreneur first, what made you get into specifically value addition, which is really the secondary sector and important, and what are the current challenges and how are you actually overcoming them, and what would you say is the best entry for women to get into value addition in the agriculture sector?
Thank you very much, Maria, for the question. What encouraged me to enter into the value addition segment of agriculture is I come from an agricultural background with my parents being farmers themselves, but it's the high waste that we experience in the agricultural sector given the short shelf life nature of agri-produce. So what we experience is you have high waste whereby farmers are not able to realize revenues from their products before they, before they go bad. So I looked into that and I wondered how is it that we can, because we still have issues with malnutrition in the country, but we're also experiencing high waste. How do we bridge the gap between hungry bellies and wasted food? Because according to the research by the World Health Organization, more than 30% of food produced goes to waste before it even reaches the plate. So bridging or coming up with a solution to that problem is what Awana Foods was founded to do. And some of the challenges one gets to experience is really, as alluded to by the earlier panel, is that collaboration or that where do you find the common ground where you find all your stakeholders. For example, with us is we're trying to value add to fresh produce. So where do we find all the farmers together in order to get the produce from them and then value add in such a manner? But basically, in a nutshell, that is what we do, and that's a problem we sought to solve.
All right, we'll come back to you later on the specification. Dr. Moyo, I want to come back. I want to come to you actually, and we've experienced that either there's too much information, and maybe it's not accessible, or there's not much information where people can access. From an academia point of view, you are producing information, you are sharing, you are training. How do you actually see the academia role in empowering participation of women in agriculture, and how are your own experiences as a woman in agri-trade? Maybe you're a farmer yourself, or you are just, what is that contribution basically that you have seen or participated? Let me hand over.
Thank you, Maria, for that question. As an academician, I have participated in research quite a lot, and our research has been motivated by different things. We have been motivated by different factors, And some of the factors over time, we realized that they do not feed back to the communities per se, but they just satisfy the research aspect of what academicians are interested in. And currently, there has been a move to look at what we call action-based research. So action-based research is where you conduct research in response to an actual identified problem. So we respond to the actual problems that have been identified. And how do we get to know about actual problems? We get to know about actual problems through engaging communities. So you need to engage the communities, engage the end user of your research output, engage the people on the ground. And by this I mean stakeholders, we mean the farmers as well. We also mean our students that we are with on a daily basis at the universities. So we speak to the students, we engage them, we actually put them out there in the field and let them experience the real world and come back to us and present their experiences while they were there. What did you see? What did you see as problems in the current situation? And how do you think the current situation can be transformed to a future desired, improved situation? Then research comes in as the intervention. That's one way that we have improved our research on to ensure that our end users receive information that's relevant to them. Like you rightly put it in the question, there has been information generation, yes, but some of the information was generated and left on the desktops of us researchers and sometimes desktops of the client, whoever asked you to conduct research. And they have been gathering dust over time. They haven't been used. But through action-based research, we have little by little seen evidence that we are making an impact. In the policy space, we are making an impact in the development space as well.
Yes.
So I think, yeah.
And it's very important because I think I was chatting to Sarah and I said, one of the answers, she said, how did you get in here? She said, I went to a training.
Yes.
And that training unlocked me and now I'm here. Yeah. So Elise,
yes.
I know you are an emerging farmer.
Yes.
But you are also a woman in governance, particularly in trade policy. Mm. Can you share with us the transition as a woman in policy? You see the opportunities, the challenges, and now you are also doubling on the other side. What are your experiences as a woman farmer? And also, because you are empowered to know the information, how is that moving with you, specifically right now, as that person in that spot?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. In terms of your question, from the transition of being a policymaker and then transitioning into being an actual farmer, it's a great experience in the sense that being on the forefront of policymaking, you have the information in terms of market access, in terms of what are the markets that are out there that Namibia is party to, that you can probably participate and allow your products to be exported to. You also have information in terms of issues such as standards, because when the area of agri-trade is an area that's actually governed by standards. It has to do with human health. It has to do with animal health as well. So you are exposed in collaboration in terms of standards, which is now your Namibia Standard Institution. There are also other forums and avenues such as your Agricultural Trade Forum, which advocates policy back to farmers in terms of policy that Namibia is involved at national level and international level, as well as agreements that Namibia is party to. The same is institutions such as the Namibia Trade Forum, which is also an advocacy body in terms of policy for government towards or to the public as well as private sector and academia. Thus, I think probably having that opportunity in terms of being exposed to all this information, it provides a good platform whereby I can probably feed this back into being an emerging farmer. But then I think probably also, as has been alluded to by previous speakers from previous sessions, as well as my panelists that are here, I think that organization and collaboration is what is needed. You can see in terms of institution, higher education institution, there's a lot of research that's going on, whereby public institutions, the policymakers actually need this type of information information to ensure that they formulate the right policies, that they advocate in terms of country position when it comes to negotiation on trade agreements, that they are able to advance the true reflection of the abilities and capabilities within our country, or at national level. So I think that would be my perspective in terms of transitioning from a policy perspective and also coming into farming as a woman. Although coming into farming as a woman, it has been a little bit intimidating. But then you give thanks to colleagues such as the Esther them, the Selma them, that are taking the forefront and opening up the gates that it can be done. Women in agriculture, we have seen several publications of colleagues that have also worked with myself, and they are now farmers. So you tap on yourself and go like, let me take this opportunity. Let me take the opportunity that AgriBank is giving in terms of financing facility for women and youth, and try to see what I can make of, and capitalize on opportunities of like the Africa Growth Opportunity Act, which is the AGOA. This is a great platform, a unilateral trade arrangement that is on offer by the US to sub-Saharan countries, inclusive of Namibia. And there are more than 6,000 plus products that are gaining preferences in terms of duties, duty-free exports to the US market. And some of these priority sectors are your indigenous natural products, which is your marula, your Kalahari seeds. And these are areas that where you will find predominantly women and especially cooperatives. So I feel these are opportunities that need to be capitalized and taken advantage of. But then, as alluded to by previous speaker, access to finance, access to land, the organization, those will ensure that we take the greatest benefit of all these opportunities.
And I still want to come back to you. You have mentioned some of the opportunities at the trade, international trade, and I think even in yesterday's public lecture, we're looking at the CFTA, and of course, the audience is always that it's here, and how do I get here? How do I make sure that it's practical to me? So my question is there any, empowerment activities or projects, specifically maybe under the Ministry of Trade, which gives basically implementation activity to the agreements that the ministry is rolling out in that sense?
Yes, when it comes to the CFTA agreement, the Continental Free Trade Agreement, is that at national level we have formulated an implementation strategy for the CFTA. This is inclusive to ensure that everyone who's in business is able to participate, including women that are into agri-food trade. But then again, as alluded to, I think it's just the organization in ensuring that benefits are filtered to the right people in the right manner. The CFTA agreement is a market opportunity of 55 to 44 African member states. Thus, as a country, knowing that we are a small market, knowing that we do have challenges of skills transfer, of technology, and all these other issues, local organization and well set up within the domestic market, I think will give us a leverage when it comes to our participation at continental level.
Definitely. Sarah, what would you, I know that I don't want to go back because I think when we talk about challenges, we always mention them from a broader perspective, but earlier on, we were hearing specific challenges like City of Windhoek, bylaws, that is potential to just unlock access to finance. And I really want you to just maybe be more practical on how did you get to a point of, especially financing. We think that you must have money. Sometimes they say you don't need money to get into business. What has been your experience, and how can you encourage women to access finance or to look for financing opportunity or just to start?
Thank you, Maria. With regards to, I think I would also fall prey or under the segment that is it Esther that was talking about earlier in terms of you probably need access to land was one of the issues or obstacles that I faced, and I had to sort of use one of my older brothers to get land, so it's on his name. But in terms of access to finance or getting started, for me it was finding a problem worth solving. And once I did that, opportunities then came up of you probably are more aligned to see things at speak to what it is that you're interested in solving. So for me, it was then after I founded Awana Foods, I got exposed to the GIZ food preservation, value addition and food preservation training, which was free of charge. And that unlocked a lot of opportunities for me in terms of networking, in terms of dealing with the products in a way that does not, you know, compromise on the health of its consumers and all that. And then after that, being able to actually have, because the training was so comprehensive to the extent that we were able to, how do I start small and scale from there? So it also gave me access to then various role players in terms of suppliers of packaging material and all these things. So it's not necessarily something that required huge amounts of capital. As I alluded to earlier, is that we are dealing with things that would ordinarily go to waste because of the oversaturation in the market in that particular season of production. So it's really getting started with the resources that are available to you at that point. So that being your raw materials from the various farmers in the area, could be in your local areas when you start off, and then getting the you know, packaging material and just getting started, even if it's with few units per of products but at that particular time, and you scale as you go on. It doesn't really require huge amounts of capital, but it definitely opens a lot of doors for you going forward.
Right. Dr. Moyo, it's training, it's access to information, it's networking. That is really what is pushing and unlocking opportunities. What programs are at the ATPI that women can access to be trained on? How can they get in touch with ATPI? And maybe you can just elaborate on that.
Okay, thank you. ATPI, the full name is the Agricultural Trade Policy Institute. And within ATPI, we have a very big realization that perspectives and leadership styles of both genders are very important ingredients if we are to succeed in the policy space, in policy reforms of the agri-food sector. So we try by all means to make sure that in all our programs there is a gender balance. And having said that, I want to make reference to one of our programs that has been running since the establishment of ATPI, is the training of professionals. We have a number of stakeholder representatives who have been trained, and they are still undergoing training on various courses. And those courses were identified through a stakeholder engagement process where stakeholders identified courses that they regarded as important for their capacity building. And part of the courses have to do, the bulk of them actually have to do with trade, and some of them have to do with the policy issues, and some courses also have to do with project management, you know, the management aspect of development. And there are also courses that have to do with financial management. We've been talking about finances, and I like what Esther said in the previous session, that sometimes as a woman, you know you need money, and it's very clear you have to approach a bank, but the confidence to approach a bank is lacking in you. So it has to come from us, I think, the academic institutions where we train young people who have enrolled in our programs to instill confidence, or maybe to give them the language to speak when they go to a bank. How should they speak, and what should they put down as a concept note, as a project proposal? You know, so that's the role that ATPI, part of the role that ATPI is playing towards that. And in the training of professionals courses, we have by all means made sure that there is a gender balance. So the representation of women is quite good. The representation of men is also quite good in the training sessions. So that's the training within ATPI. Then, because ATPI is hosted by a university, we don't operate in isolation. We also integrate our efforts to the university programs. We make sure that the students that we engage with, they could be undergraduate, they could be at honors level, master level, or PhD level. We ensure that, you know, students have a broad, you know, mindset. They don't think in a let me say, a blinkered way, a way that is focused in a certain area. they think broadly about what they could do after they attain their degree. And part of that we touched on yesterday after the public lecture. We spoke about students integrating themselves with the primary producers of agricultural produce. Students leaving a university and identifying farmers in the region where they come from, in Omaheke, in Kunene, you name them, the regions. That student should identify farmers there and say, okay, I have the know-how, I was taught. How can I work with you? You are producing the product. I know how to fill in the forms. We were enlightened yesterday through the public lecture that, trade, we all know, or most of us know, that trade involves a lot of paperwork. So somebody has to be literate to know how to complete the forms and to know how to go through the process, and comply, and also read the consumer preferences and all. So the students can play that role in the value chain and work with the groups of farmers in the regions where they come from, and the whole chain goes through, and the farmers can then access the bigger markets that were spoken about earlier today.
Yeah, no, definitely. Elise, when it comes to the trade agreements and how gender sensitive that is, perhaps how is the ministry, addressing that in terms of formulating actually of this trade policy, trade agreements? And perhaps also from your experience, where do you see the role of the private sector? Because really the private sector implements the agreements. They are the beneficiaries of these trade measures. And that gap that we see always, what is government doing? But from your experience, where is private sector also lacking, where they can come in?
Yes. Thank you very much for the question. In terms of our ministry and its programs or trade agreements being gender sensitive, as a ministry, at national level, we are also complying to the affirmative action, which is, of course, inclusion of women as well as disability people within our programs and facilities. In terms of ensuring that women are also carried along with all the initiatives that we undertake, public consultations are held when it comes to trade agreements. There are always public consultation in terms of what are the positions that we need to advance as a country in these trade agreements. We also consult the private sector to try and see in terms of their abilities and capabilities to try and ensure that the agreements carry their objective as well as benefit across. So in terms of applying or ensuring that there's a gender balance within issues of trade agreements as well as policy, that is probably the perspective or angle that I would want to bring across. And then the other element of the second question?
Private sector, so their role, where do they come in?
Yes. Private sector, as you have indicated, they are a very important partner to our ministry. Because as you have indicated, as a ministry or as government, we are there to create a conducive environment for business to operate from. That is in terms of policies that we come up with, that is in terms of programs that we come up with that would ensure skills, abilities within businesses, people. That is in terms of trade agreements that we are partaking in. That's why we have forums such as the National Trade Forum, which is an agency of the ministry that is there to dialogue or have dialogue platforms between public sector as well as private sector, as well as the academia and NGOs in terms of any policy that the ministry is involved, in terms of any bill or agreement or an act that the ministry is formulating to ensure that the interest of the private sector has been carried on board, because as you have indicated, at the end of the day, the private sector are the implementers. The private sectors will be the one to be impacted by whatever is included in the act, the bills, as well as the trade agreements. Yeah. Therefore, involvement of the private sector in our initiatives is a very critical thing for us as a ministry.
And of course, existing.
Yes, and existing as well.
Thank you so much. I want to open up the audience maybe to interact with us at this point. If we can have some show of hands and then take a mic right there in front of us so that we can see what elements or questions do you want to contribute at this point. Yes, sure. Please go ahead. We have about 3 hands, so let's get those ones rolling.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Helena. I'm from the Nutrition and Food Security Alliance of Namibia. So my question is for Ms. Sarah. Yes, you said what motivated you is the fact that you have identified a gap between malnutrition and the wasted food. So my question is, have you found ways or solutions in which this can be solved, like in which the food cannot be wasted and can be given to the people who need it? And so far, how did that work? How well did that work out for you? Yeah, that's my question.
Thank you. Let's take a, yes, ma'am, please go ahead. And then we have another hand there.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much, the panelists, because it's very interesting and informative what you have shared with us. I will start with Dr. Moyo. Sorry. You say that you do action research. So I wanted to know, because this is very interesting to me and I would want also to be part and parcel of it. How do you disseminate this information so that it reaches people like us who really wants to know what you are doing? And then you mentioned the ATPI, training of professionals. How do you identify these professionals? And your training, because, you know, I might be a professional, but my English is not good. How can I become one of it? And do you train it also? Do you give the training in indigenous languages so that I become part of it? Because I'm talking, most of our membership in the informal settlements, unfortunately, they didn't have the opportunities like most who had to go to school, but they are very good. But the barrier also is English, and then they miss out on these trainings. So how can we make sure that we integrate them as well, and we put it into our indigenous languages? Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Yes, Ms. Go ahead with that question.
GIZ. And this is what I was saying, that you need to just bring in something and then you let the people do. And like she said, you don't need really a lot of money to start a business. You need to start, and that is guided by willingness. If a person is willing to do something with little that they have, they can, of course, start and move on. Yeah. We are not saying that the finance are not necessary, but you also, as the people who give microfinancing, they need to see what the person has done first, yes, for them to, you know, to invest in that. Yes. And I just want to encourage the youth or whoever want to, they need to have something in order to get some support. And thank you very much for what you are doing. You are doing very well, and keep it up.
Thank you. Thank you so much for those round of questions. Yes, we have one more. Please go ahead.
Really a question. I think it's because the previous panelist, as well as now, has been mentioning a lot on capital and finances being one of the barriers. I am Indileni from AgriBank, and maybe I can just allude to the fact that AgriBank has last year launched a women and youth product financing scheme. And in that financing scheme, we have realized that women is the barrier, yes, of land, but the biggest part of it is really collateral, providing collateral. And that is why this specific scheme really caters for women who want to partake into agriculture but don't have collateral. And then at the same time, they are probably not employed to back it up with salary. So we have developed this scheme with an offtake agreement. So it's again, you need to put in effort, like the speaker said, willingness and putting in effort in finding that off-taker so that you can assess the loan through an off-take agreement. So again, I think, again, in terms of training and also opening up the mindset in terms of how do you deal with finances, I think it will also be great to integrate how do you approach a bank and how would you answer you know, how do you fill in and how do you make sure that you get that loan and fill in the applications and all that? I think that would be a great part of it. In addition to that, maybe just in conclusion, we have done a lot of road shows on the women and youth product across the country so far. I think this was our second round again across the country, just to make sure that people really understand that there is finance available. However, you still need to put in work. And that was in collaboration with GIZ. And yeah, just to open up to say there is really a lot of opportunities for women, and financing is also available if you do put in the effort.
Thank you for that. Please go ahead, and then we have Ms. Rosa up again too. I hope we are taking notes.
Yeah, maybe just to add on that, my name is Christina. I work with GIZ's Business Scouts for Development program. And only last week, together with Startup Namibia and Make IT in Africa, we launched a guide for entrepreneurs to investment in Namibia. It's available as a hard copy, but also online on investmentguide.africa. There you also find a database for investors for different sectors, also the agricultural sector. There are templates for entrepreneurs and startups, so maybe it's worth checking out that website as well, and that guide for additional information, also very Namibia specific, so yeah, take a look.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Mine is more on the research. I'm Rosanna Mises. I'm working for Women Solidarity, but our focus was violence against women and children. But since 2010, we realized talking only about violence without really bringing an alternative is very empty. So what we did, we ventured into agriculture. And what now happens, and that's where I want to find out about, it's okay for the action research, but I think it's something that needs to be brought to the women in this sector so that you talk about the violence whilst you do the practical agriculture. Also in the previous speakers, I think it's very important that we talk around the question of violence and the economy, which is power related. And I would have been asking Nas to, maybe there's the bigger questions, but there is the side question of how does agriculture and violence against women link to each other? Because what I have seen in the groups that we are working, and also it was alluded by the earlier speakers, saying that women are working hard, but the earnings are going to the men. All the relationship becomes bitter when the value is added and the produce is on the market. We were talking about high marketing skills, and that means much more income. That means much more challenges for the women. So I am really, because in our experience, we had to really fight the men away from the, and these are rural women in the villages that we are working with. So we had to really churn them out. They were in the projects, but they came with their macho behavior and blocking the women. And so we had to put them away. So I would really, this is a new, and there was the digital young ladies. I was just gonna see how can we put this on regarding the relationships with women and violence and agriculture. Yeah. And especially when food is now even made in a very simple way, maybe dried, and then it becomes easy to take it to the market, becomes very enticing. When it's value added, you are making now tomato sauce, and then you're selling that. And then, so maybe that is something that I would love to hear.
Thank you. And perhaps how do we also make men support, not just keep them away because they have these elements, but how do we then transform them to come back and support? Dr. Moya, let me start with you on the interventions, maybe what you have noted there, just to go through with us, and then we'll take it from there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the questions. To start off, I just want to mention that we have a website. ATPI has a website now, so that's one way of accessing us. you may, it's within the NAST website, since we are hosted by the university. So you may go to the website and also have a look at what else ATPI has to offer. So that's one. Secondly, I want to speak to the question on action-based research, the dissemination aspects of it. How do we disseminate information once it has been generated, analyzed, and validated? I'm explaining all the stages so that one has an appreciation of the fact that information that is eventually disseminated should have been validated. Yes, for it to be, to a certain extent, trusted and can be used. So what we do, since we're an academic institution, we engage our students. Our research is conducted in conjunction with the students because the students have to still acquire their degrees. And to acquire a degree, you must have submitted a thesis, a dissertation, a thesis, yeah. So they will write their thesis based on the research and the data that they will have collected. But the data that they will have collected will not end at the thesis. So the thesis is one product which can be accessed publicly. From the thesis, we take out key information that is packaged in micro documents, because a thesis, like my children call it, they call it a book. It's a book. So if it's a book, it might scare some readers away, and it has a lot of things in it. So we take out aspects, important aspects out of it, and write them out in several forms. One form, which is very common for the academics, you know that, and we've been criticized for it, is the journals, journal articles. We need to publish. But the good thing is that the publications they're sent out, they're peer-reviewed, meaning they're sent to other people who were not involved in your initial work. And those people will check you out on the methodology you used, on the, the validity of the data that you, or even the analytical techniques that you used. So you're checked by many people outside Namibia, internationally. So that's the good thing about publications. Eventually, when that publication is out there, any of us can access it. It's public. And when you access it and it has information that speaks to you, you've been reached by research. That's one. The second way of disseminating our information is through policy briefs. It's a brief to the point, a short, summarized version of what the research has found. And that one is quick and easy for one to go through. And it's straight to the point with recommendations. And in most cases, the policy briefs go they go for policy advocacy. That is where the policymakers, the ministries in the country access our research from. And it's normally targeted. If it's a policy brief on research about trade, we will bring it to their ministry, and put the relevant stakeholders in the same room, and the policy brief is discussed, and then we discuss further on how those policy recommendations can feed into the policy formulation space or the policy review space, whichever policy is relevant at that point. So that's another way. There is also another way in which we disseminate information. We conduct workshops. Some of you might attest to that they've attended workshops from NAST. Maybe not from ATPI yet, but ATPI has also conducted a few workshops. I'm saying not from ATPI, maybe for some, because ATPI is fairly new, but NAST as a university, research has been going on, and some workshops have been done where people are invited, farmers are invited, and they receive feedback on what research found, where research was conducted, the methodology that was used, and what the audience then thinks. The workshop is meant for audience feedback. So the audience then tells us, okay, what you're saying there, although what the graphs are showing does not represent us. We are the other way. So it's a validation process. So we do that as well as the other products that I mentioned. So the last one that I want to mention, and I know this list is not exhaustive. There are many other ways of disseminating information which we should explore, but there is one that we also do, manuals. We develop manuals depending on the research that has been conducted and what it involves. We develop manuals, easy to read, in a language that can be understood by a layman, not only for academicians, but for somebody who's sitting, maybe a farmer sitting in her kitchen somewhere. They can go through our manual and understand the language. You simplify the language in a manual. But not yet at the language that my fellow colleague there mentioned, the vernacular. That's where we should go, because I'm going to training now, answering the question on training. We have to go to translating some of our work to local languages, because in our training, we are currently training, we called it the training for professionals. And there, the participants are mostly industry representatives, you know. That's where we started. We identified them through the industry itself. When we conducted the survey, we asked the industry to identify people that they think we should engage in the training for 2 years. It's a 2-year training program that ICAP GIZ is funding for us. And they're training so that we capacitate, you know, the decision makers, so to speak. The people who sit in the ministry, capacitate them, and then there's a trickle-down effect to everyone else who deals with that ministry. So we are training those first, but the plan is to then take the training down to the grassroots levels. And as we go down with it, I mean, there's a language that you speak as you go, level by level. So the level we are in now is a certain level, but when we go down to the farmers, when we go down to the primary producers, the language will also change and suit them. And it will also suit what we call gender-sensitive training programs. Yeah. We have those. Gender-sensitive training programs. And that's what we do. And that is also meant to enable policy and inclusive decision-making, because that's our primary goal as well. We want everyone to be involved, or everyone to have the ability to involve themselves in decision-making processes. That's one. So the language will eventually get to vernacular, and identification of professionals. I've spoken about how we identify the ones that we have now. But as we go on, we will see how best to identify the professionals. And ATPI does not identify the professionals themselves. They engage the stakeholders. They engage the partners. And the partners give ATPI people to train. Yeah. Thank you. Then I want to speak about the research on the link between violence or domestic violence and agriculture. It's a very important topic and subject. And within ATPI, if you go to the website, you'll see we have one research arm that talks to agri-socio-economics. And at ATPI, I'm responsible for it, coincidentally. So I'm responsible for that research arm on agri-socio-economics. Socio is now the human face. Yeah. The people, it's us. So when we talk about us, there is violence. You find in our space there is violence. So those issues will then fit in that research arm. So what I'm saying is ATPI already recognized that there will be a need for agriculture to be integrated with social issues, and we have that arm. So a lot of research can go into that arm.
Yeah. And of course, I think we can link up from now on and see what you can already tap from them. From them, since she already has data, she's working, so I think it works very well.
Thank you. I want to mention one more thing. Sorry, Maria.
Sure.
One more thing that I should mention is that right now, ATPI is busy conducting research to produce the first baseline agricultural outlook for Namibia. So it's a baseline agricultural outlook for Namibia. We started off with a few commodities. There are a lot of commodities, definitely, you know, in Namibia. Yeah. But we started off with the first ones, you know, the baby steps. And there are 6 commodities that we are going to put up in that baseline report. It will soon be launched for Namibia. Then we build on it going forward. And it's meant to provide information for policy formulation, policy revision, and also for inclusive decision making. So you just go through the baseline, and from where you are, you don't have to be in Windhoek. You see what's happening in the country. It will have a national, you know, a national perspective and also a regional perspective. So you can place yourself and position yourself.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We look forward to that. Sarah, I want to come back to you. I think you earlier mentioned that you also went through a similar situation of your brother registering land in your name or on behalf of you. Maybe if you can take us through, was that a decision that you were not empowered, or was it regulatory? What was the reason behind that? And perhaps when you started, you know, what other opportunities did you pick up just because you started? And of course, you can then weave in the questions that came.
Thank you, Maria. With regards to, I think I would allude to what, is it Meme Esther from Ministry of Gender?
Yeah.
What she spoke about earlier, saying that our societies, especially in the rural areas, are largely still very patriarchal. So for a 26-year-old young lady to come there saying she needs land, it's not something people will welcome wholeheartedly. So I then decided I'm not going to be the angry black woman in this situation. I would rather use my brother to go and speak to the headman or headwoman to get land on my behalf instead. So that's one of the areas in which we still have a long way to go. So in terms of policies, the policies are probably still in place, but culturally and the traditions or the way people are towards it, it's still that it's largely very patriarchal in terms of land ownership, especially at rural level. And that is the land that women can afford given our economical backgrounds, whereby women, for the most part, have been very domestic, so they don't really have an earning in order to be able to afford commercial land. And with regards to what Indileni asked in terms of how do we preserve or how do we mitigate the gap between wasted food and hungry bellies or malnutrition, is that you look at, for the most part, what makes food inaccessible to people in lower income earning brackets is the high storage requirements in most cases. So your tomatoes fresh tomatoes will probably have a shelf life of 5 days, if not shorter than that, especially given our climate. So we've embarked on preservation through drying for some of our products, and those products then become your low profit margin, high volume kind of products, whereby you don't really aim to make high profits on the sale of one unit, but you want to produce as many as possible in order to meet the social need that is out there. And with regards to, I think, the issue that was mentioned in terms of how do we integrate men in the whole thing of agriculture, for them not to see women as competitors or as fighting them, I really think we need to look at it as empowering women is a very economic issue. If you look at research or the data that's out there, 90% of 90 cents in every dollar earned by a woman, she invested in the nutrition, the education, and the health of her family. Whereas for men, that is only 40 cents in the dollar. So you can imagine already the economic impact that empowering a woman has on the GDP of a country. And it's also a thing to say that you don't want to run a twin engine on one engine when you can actually fully exhaust the potential you have by empowering your women and growing your economy in that regard. So you have to, if you have the capacity to empower women, if there are women that are willing to work, empower them as well, so that they're able to add and contribute to our economic growth as a country and be able to, take us forward. Because, thank you, Maria.
Thank you so much. And I think I would love if there's anybody in the audience, this thing of men, is it that we think men are empowered, or we need to find a model to actually re-empower them back by, breaking some of the traditional barriers that they perceive as it has been? I think it's a bigger topic to unpack, but I think the point is not to leave out the men. I mean, the brother helped her to get the land. There's also those type of important benefits. Elise, access to information again, and it's always government. What can government do? What can I go? What and what? So yesterday at the public lecture, we were talking about international trade, and then obviously some of the principles under the agreements, like the annexes of the SPS annex, the technical barrier to trade, the rules of origin, which are your three critical probably things for a trader to understand, to incorporate in their production. So the question was, where can I get these trade agreements? Where can I access these annexes? Perhaps from the ministry side, as the custodian of international trade, website, links, email, do you have an entry point for people and women specifically to access that information?
Yes, thank you very much for that question, Maria. Yes, as a ministry, we have a website whereby basically on the website we have all the functions of the ministry as well as our department and directorates. Trade agreements would fall under the Directorate of International Trade, which is basically the Department of Trade and Commerce. That's where you would find information pertaining to trade agreements. But then, as a country, once we have concluded negotiations and have rectified an agreement, we usually hold public awareness campaigns throughout the country. we would also partner with NTF, as I've indicated, to try and transmit this information to the public. During the days of trade fairs, those would be platforms where we would share such information with traders, exhibitors, as well as the SMEs and the broad public in terms of what is contained in our trade agreements, what are the products that could be exported to a certain country, and what are the preferential trade agreements that we have in place, such as your PTA with Zimbabwe, or the bilateral arrangements that are in place either between Namibia and South Africa. So those are usually the platforms where that would be information dissemination platform for the public, as well as the private sector and business community at large. Yeah. But I would want to say that since the business environment is an ever-evolving environment, such effort needs to be done on a continuous basis. Yes. With COVID and everything else, it has proven that face-to-face contact can be a challenge at times. That's why, as the former speaker from the previous session was saying, therefore digitizing some of these information is very important. And as I've indicated, of course, a lot of it can be found on our website. Yes. A lot of it can also be found at the website of our agencies, such as the Namibia Trade Forum, your BIPA, which is the Business Intellectual Property Agency, when it comes to intellectual property information, because these are also quite vital information in terms of trademarks and patent, in order for you to preserve and benefit from the business ideas and business initiatives that you undertake or business people undertake at large. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so in a nutshell, and also we publish the annual report of the ministry, whereby we of course have the annual activities that the ministry has undertaken. And then we also have the Namibia Trade Directory. And then the other thing that I would probably also want to share is that the ministry is represented in all 14 regions. Yep. So we are an office that is accessible to the broad public in all our regions. In terms of exchange, when it comes to languages, there is a fair representation in terms of being able to communicate within your own local languages. A trader, a business person, or just a public individual can come into our office and try to find out information in a language that is more understandable to them as well. So I think that is something that I would want to flag, that as a ministry we have tried to be as accessible as possible to the public.
And you keep obviously
working on that.
Working on that until you overcome some of those. Maybe I just wanted to find out in the audience if there is any other questions. Maybe we missed answering some of the questions, or you just want a comment. Thank you to AgriBank. I think they also highlighted on how to access financing in terms of the women and youth. I think we also benefit from the recently launched investment guide, how to do business in Namibia. Probably basic information that one can access. I think all the information will obviously give it also as we disseminate this content, some of these key important websites that one can access. I don't see any hands. I'm thinking that we are moving very well. So I think I want to come to the final conclusion of our discussion, final remarks. Again, Sarah being, the star, because people want to see the people that are engaging in this. For us, some of us, we just do research and we tell you the answer, but we don't know what it means. We don't know how it feels. What would be your advice to your fellow young women, not just young, but also older women, how to start, just that encouragement?
I think similar to what our previous speakers have said is you cannot really function in a silo. So collaboration is key. So whereby you'll find ways in which you can capitalize on the skill or the excellence of another person or the expertise of another person in order to build. So if you are in a certain area, try to find people that are doing a similar thing, or that are already working on something that can be an input to what you want to start, so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel and you actually work easier or work better. And I think also then integrating or constantly being up to, updated with various initiatives that are happening. I think as we've heard in the room, there are a lot of initiatives that various institutions that have introduced or are implementing.
Definitely.
So being on the lookout for that in order to you know, move with the times and actually capitalize on the various policies that are being implemented to help women and youth in general.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Liz, how can we encourage our policymakers to be more involved, to bring more impact to the ground? For your final remarks.
Yes, thank you very much for that question. How can we encourage policymakers to get involved? I would probably allude to the statement that has already been exhausted, which is collaboration. As a ministry, we do have training programs that are in place, but then you would find that I think moving forward, we need to collaborate with the institutions like the Agricultural Trade Policy Institute at NAST. They are focusing on commodity-based research work that they are doing. At the ministry, our focus is value addition in terms of priority sector, and agro-processing is one of them. So if we can have that collaboration in terms of their research that they have undertaken, it would give us leverage when it comes to the formulation of programs as well as policies that we are trying to advance in order to ensure that in terms of trade agreements, we benefit as a country in order to ensure that negotiating better market access for our business people is done in a much more informed manner. So I would still want to advocate, like as was previously alluded, I think the avenue of collaboration between different institutions, the public sector research institutions such as the NAST, the UNAM, as well as the private sector is highly needed in order to reap the necessary benefit.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Dr. Moyo, the farming ecosystem is obviously changing constantly. We spoke earlier on the climate change issues. Do you have maybe share a case study that you have experienced that ATP have looked at the regional level that you think it's worth sharing here that could assist Namibian women? Briefly, please.
Okay, thank you. The environment where we exist is changing. And for that, I would say, if we don't innovate, we will perish.
Yeah.
So we need to innovate. And there is a case study that I want to make reference to. It's around the irrigation schemes.
Yeah.
Okay. We know that government made irrigation schemes available for farmers who are willing to participate in the schemes as small-scale producers. And then we found that, you know, a scheme is a scheme. It has capacity.
Yeah.
If all of us here in the room want to participate and are willing to participate in the scheme, and the scheme can only accommodate 5, it has 5 plots, the rest of us will not have plots.
Yeah.
So what do you do? Because food still needs to be produced. You need to produce food for your household. And you've been taught about the benefits of irrigating as opposed to waiting for the rain to come at the end of the year. Yeah. So irrigation, you can produce food all year round. And you can produce different types of crops. And we all know, but you don't have a plot. So what do you do? So some farmers, let me say some individuals, then went on to drill their own boreholes, one, to irrigate still. So they said, okay, if I didn't get a plot on the farm, on the scheme, but I know why I should irrigate, I will irrigate independently. Yeah. So they drilled their boreholes and irrigated. Some abstracted water from the nearby rivers and irrigated. So at the end of the day, irrigation was the buzzword. How you do it, it's up to you. Yeah. So let's produce food, let's irrigate. There are different ways of doing it.
Yeah. Thank you so much, ladies, for helping me unpack this topic, and for our audience for interacting with us and being with us this morning. I hope it was very insightful for everybody watching. But before I say goodbye, we obviously have been running the Agri4Women week since Monday. We had some YouTube videos that we're running that you can still check on the Agri4Women YouTube channel, inspiring stories of women farmers, some policy directives. Of course, on the Tuesday and Thursday and Wednesday, we conducted training with the TRALAC, where we had different topics. Most of the topics that we have discussed here were also part of the training, and I think that went very well. And of course, yesterday we had a public lecture at nest, which was also very, very insightful. As part of that, we just wanted to give some of the women that are following the social medias hampers, so that we can also make it exciting, so you can also feel that you're participating. So I actually have 5 winners that were selected throughout the week that had to like their social media pages and refer their friends to like, and they were selected as winners. So the first one is Anna Haufiku. Then we have Rosalia Yatate. Then we have Maria Amadila Shikongo. We have Hendrina Isaskari, and then Naita Maria. So if you heard your name and you know that you're following Agri4Women Week and you have actually participated, please, we will get in touch with you. This is just to announce that you are the winner, and congratulations. That's it from me, Maria Emmanuel, and my lovely panel. Thank you so much for the audience and for everybody who was live. Of course, you can continue watching this material, very important. And I encourage all the students, please get on the Agri4Women Week and try to get all this information. It might help you graduate. From me, Maria Emmanuel, and everybody else, from the Farming for Resilient project, as well as the ICA project, as well as GIZ Namibia. Thank you so much for your support, and see you next time.